Hello, everyone. I'm J.R. Stays. This is October 8th, 2024, and you're listening to your Daily Detroit, showing what's new, what's next, and what matters in Southeast Michigan. We have a jam-packed show for you. We've got 4 stories around town, and then we're going to talk Tigers, Lions, and Pistons with Fletcher Sharpe. Before we get started, if you have not already, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. And if you really want to help out, tell somebody about Daily Detroit. Word of mouth is how we spread the news about Detroit. There's another name thinking about running for mayor of the city of Detroit. Detroit City Council member Fred Durhall III has launched an exploratory committee for a potential run. Durhall has served both as a state representative and on the Detroit City Council representing District 7. During his time in state office, Durhall says he focused on securing funding for Detroit, including over $1 billion in state resources and millions for road repairs, education programs, and community initiatives. On City Council, he says he's championed job creation, affordable housing, and neighborhood development. The formation of this exploratory committee allows Durhall to gauge public support for a potential candidacy. As the crowded field for Detroit's next mayor begins to take shape, current office holder Mike Duggan has not announced he is not running again, but it's widely rumored this is his last term and may run for governor of Michigan, with Gretchen Whitmer being term limited. We shall see.
3.
It was a mixed picture for Detroit's 3 casinos in September. MGM and Motor City saw gains in market share, while Hollywood Casino at Greektown saw a significant decline when compared to this time last year. According to the Michigan Gaming Control Board, casinos' monthly table gaming revenue results were mixed. MGM was up more than 6.5% to more than $47 million. Motor City up 0.5% to $31 million. And Hollywood Casino at Greektown was down nearly 8% to $22.3 million. Tax revenues to the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan were relatively flat compared to previous months. Even if you're not a gambler, the casinos play an important role in keeping the city running. In total dollars, casinos are a larger part of the city budget than property taxes.
2.
Today, Tuesday, is move-in day for Ford employees at the renovated Michigan Central. The party and the concert was great, but now the rubber meets the road as 1,000 workers will be there by the end of this calendar year. 3 floors of the old train station can handle about 450 workspaces, plus some will be going into the book depository building next door. The teams arriving will be the Ford Model E and Integrated Services teams. For context, the building, more than 100 years old, stands about 18 stories tall. The constant hum and economic activity of workers will also help shape Corktown businesses as well. From coffee shops to restaurants to retail to personal needs like barbers and medical services, what's often called Detroit's oldest neighborhood is in for another wave of change. Michigan Avenue is in the planning stages of being redone and getting the area ready for not just more vehicle traffic, but to enhance walkability. You know, there's a reason that people see so much potential in Corktown. Sure, it's the history, but also it's because it was a population center before. City of Detroit documents say that Corktown in 2019 had a population of around 3,500 residents, but during its peak in the 1930s, the neighborhood had more than 8 times that, with north of 30,000 people living there. That's more than the entire city of Ferndale, or half the size of Royal Oak today, in Corktown alone.
1.
On Detroit's east side, Circle Forest, a 1.3-acre urban forest and trail, was unveiled Tuesday in the Poletown neighborhood. The project, a collaboration between Detroit Future City and Arboretum Detroit, transformed vacant residential land into a vibrant ecosystem and community gathering space. The forest has more than 200 trees and shrubs from 39 different species, along with a 20,000-square-foot prairie. Accessible features include gravel pathways, gathering plazas, and an ADA-compliant deck. The project, which began back in 2021, involved nearly 1,000 volunteers contributing 1,700 hours of work. The forest also serves as an educational experience, having already hosted numerous workshops on topics like birding and plant identification. You can find it at 3301 East Palmer Street, and I'll put a link to arbdetroit.org in the show notes. A quick reminder that our happy hour celebrating 1,500 episodes, yes, we're more than 1,500 episodes into this thing, at the Congregation in Detroit, Michigan, is coming up Thursday, October 17th from 4 till 7 or whenever people are going to stay around. Tickets are free, but we do ask that you RSVP. Look it up, Daily Detroit on Eventbrite, or we will have a link in the show notes. Looking forward to seeing you. Joining me is none other than Fletcher Sharpe, who knows all things sports. He's almost like our magical oracle of Fletcher Sharpeness. How are you?
The Oracle is a pretty cool character in the Matrix. She somehow to bend spoons, so, I'll take that.
I believe you could bend a spoon.
I mean, with my hands, not with my mind. But
I didn't define how.
Fair enough. It's really positive in Detroit sports this past weekend, so I'm fine. I'm happy for that, for sure.
You are more than fine. You are happy. Look, mark the day. Fletcher Sharpe is happy. I bet you it's because the Detroit Pistons won their first preseason game, right? I'm sure that dominates all of it.
Actually, it kind of is. I know there's some more happiness around, but it kind of is, especially because people were on social media like, look at the Pistons. They're down 20-9 to start the game. Same old Pistons. And then, of course, while it is preseason, they came back with their starters, got a nice little momentum against the Bucks. And while the Bucks did not have Giannis, came back for a landslide victory, which I can be like, eat it. It's preseason, but also eat it.
How much weight do you put into preseason basketball?
None at all. The first quarter, maybe the first quarter, half the second quarter, and that's really it. Outside of that, you're just playing your backup rotation players, starter minutes, and most of the rotation players in the NBA, if they're playing starter minutes, their team is probably tanking. So I put zero stock into that. You just really want to see who's on the back end or the middle part of your bench. But it's good to see the Pistons win. It's good to see people excited about the Pistons winning, even if it's a preseason game. Because, given last year, any win at this point is positive.
Look, if we could get the Pistons into the playoffs, what a time it would be. And if we could get the Red Wings into the playoffs, I mean, we're 2 for 2 at this point. Let's move to what I know everybody wants us to talk about, which is the Detroit Tigers, that 3-0 win against the Cleveland Guardians, keeping the Tigers very much in this series. To me, it was a must-win game because you cannot blow a chance with Tarek Skubal on the mound. And Kerry Carpenter came through with a shot heard around the Great Lakes with that home run. They were able to hold it together. I think it's just more proof that if the bats come out, the Tigers are a really solid team.
Yeah, they got to avoid the dumb base running errors. There was only one, but it put me in a very foul mood in the middle of the game. Malloy hit a single, was trying to stretch it into a double, and Noel, the right fielder for the Guardians, who earlier in the game showed that he has like a massive arm strength. He had a throw from foul territory all the way to third, like on a rope, no skip. And I was like, yeah, maybe don't test that guy. Malloy rounds and he gets thrown out at second. And it's like, look, they came back to win. That's fine. But like in a game where like both your pitchers, Matthew Boyd and Tarek Skubal, are like dealing, you don't want to give away bases. Like that's a very bad base to give away, especially when the guy after you actually singles. Like you might have actually come around to do some damage. But yeah, Kerry Carpenter came in to pinch hit. I've always been jealous of baseball players who hit the ball, and as they hit it, they know it's gone. Like I've never ever confidently hit a ball that hard in my life to where it's like, is it over the fence? Like the few times I've done that, I had to jog and then immediately start sprinting as it hit off like the middle part of the fence, and that's only 250 feet. So to see someone go 423 and know immediately like, yeah, this is gone, is insane. That the last memorable home run the Tigers had like that late in the game to take a lead or to win was Maglios to send them to the World Series, which is like a long time. That's a very long time.
Well, and who can forget Kirk Gibson back in, the 80s?
Right, but we're naming home runs that have like 10 and a half plus years in between them.
Or in my case, almost an entire lifetime.
Like that's a long time, but to see it, like you could hear how excited people were. Even going through downtown to go pick up some food, like people were buzzing. And I imagine Wednesday is gonna sound like a seismic clash if he hits one of those again.
It gives me that feeling again. Maybe the Tigers can do it, especially coming back home. You know, maybe we can do it.
Like you said, Skubal was on the mound for them. You can't lose a game with your ace. Like if they lost the game with him on the mound, that kind of, I wouldn't say ends the series there, but makes it extremely harder to come back. And he showed why he's like the favorite to win the Cy Young. Went in there, was just dealing Ks, and some of the pitches he threw, like the get out pitches, like I cringed at how like he put them right in the exact spot. You watching his fastball come and watching him get people out with the fastball, then watching him late throw a breaking ball where you watch the batter go, dang, I'm not going to hit that. You watch their face just fall as the ball comes in. They start to swing. They're like, I am making zero contact with this pitch. That it's a boost, and especially to see him come off the mound fired up. It's going to be a really great time. I'm a little concerned with the hitting still, just a little bit. I know the hitting is getting heated up near the end of the game, which is great.
I don't like that we didn't score until the 8th inning.
That worries me. Like you can have a game like that if you have Skubal, because he's going to keep them in check. The other pitchers aren't slouches either, but they're not that effective. And if they get down early, like in game 1, it kind of seals the game away. So the pitchers got to step up, defense has got to step up, and the bats definitely have to warm up early on. And no more running on Noel in right field. No more. He's shown why you shouldn't do that. Let's not give up any bases. And I think the Tigers should be okay.
Well, the Lions are back on the gridiron this weekend against the Dallas Cowboys. As we record this, they are a 3-point favorite. What do we think about facing the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, 3-1 start's great. I would like to see 4-1. That would make me feel a whole lot better. I don't want to see us drop to 3-2. I think this is a game that we can win this one.
The Cowboys, I won't say are in free fall, but like their fans are growing very much tired of their starting quarterback, Dakota Prescott. And I know people call him Dak, but until he shows me why I should be calling him Dak, I'm going to call him by his government name, Dakota. I understand why, because he has, I guess, the leader personality, but like he's not that great of a quarterback, and Jerry Jones paid him as if he's one of the best in the entire game, and I think he's regretting that to a big degree. He does present one problem for the Lions, which is kind of their Achilles heel, especially under Aaron Glenn, is he's a mobile quarterback. If he needs to get out of the pocket and run, he can. And as of late, it's been where he's doing a bit more of his damage. And the Lions tend to struggle with quarterbacks who can get out of the pocket and move. I mean, heck, even ones who aren't even that like quick, like Brock Purdy or someone similar like last year with the 49ers. Prescott is a bit quicker than that, so they got to find a way to limit him and make him throw the ball. If they make him throw the ball, the defense can definitely make plays. And that's kind of, sets up the offense for a much shorter field. Do I think the offense can score against Dallas' defense? For sure. But you help them out when you make their offense make mistakes and you capitalize on it. And it makes the game a lot shorter. They've shown big playability. You remember last year, Dak got one throw off. CeeDee Lamb took it and went all the way down the field, 90-something yards. Like, we don't want to give him a chance to do that. So lock up in the backfield, in the defensive backfield, make the quarterback throw on the run, make plays when the ball's in the air, and we can go from there.
So you think the Lions can figure this out?
Oh, for sure, especially against a team like Dallas. And this no disrespect to the Dallas Cowboys, who I know have fans literally everywhere, but they are on their way down, and the Lions do need to try to catch up because in their division, surprisingly, they're trailing the Minnesota Vikings, who are up to a 5-0 start behind Sam Darnold, who is not good, and he showed the last game, kind of fell back towards mediocrity, but he has an amazing support cast around him. So if they're going to try to catch up and win the division for the second time in a row, they got to get games like this to stay with Minnesota. They can't afford to fall to 3-2 if Minnesota moves on to 5-0 or 6-0.
Well, and that's the thing. So I believe it's next that the Vikings are up. And the Lions, I think, are going to need to win both of those games.
For sure. The Packers are still there. I mean, obviously, they're kind of scraping some stuff together. The Bears are slowly starting to figure some stuff out. But right now, the main thing to look at is the Vikings. And I remember we spoke with Adam Schefter during the offseason, and everyone's like, the Lions are do great, and the Packers have some weapons, and the Bears have the number 1 overall pick, and who knows about Minnesota. And, Minnesota stepped up and been like, hey, look at us. We are here. We have one of the best receiver tandems in the NFL. We need a quarterback to get them the ball. They thought it was J.J. McCarthy, who's now out for the season. So they have Sam Darnold, who is an NFL quarterback. He's shown he can be one. I don't think he's a very good one. But so far in the beginning of the year, he's figured out some stuff to mask his deficiencies, except for last week. So when the Lions play against them, they have to bring pressure. They have to do the best they can on the outside with Justin Jefferson and Addison as well, because they're bona fide stars on the outside, and that's where the Lions got their cornerbacks they got to try to nullify things like that. And yeah, as we saw with Carlton Davis against the Seahawks, he got kind of handsy with DK Metcalf and kind of got away with a few things. I still think that's the right way to go with a player like that, but going into these next few games, you can't get handsy with CeeDee Lamb. Play the Vikings, you can't get handsy with Jordan Jefferson because they know that you do that now and they will throw the flag.
Well, and the Vikings will reprise their role as being near the end of the schedule again this year. So we'll see the Vikings on the 20th, but we won't see them again until the 5th. And that game, if it's going to be tight, if this stays tight throughout the rest of the season, those last games are going to be very, very tight.
And at those points, you want to make sure we have a game in hand. You want to make it so that if we lose to the Vikings by chance at the end of the season, or you lose to whoever, a division rival at the end of the season, it's we're up by 2 or 3 games. This doesn't really matter very much. Would we have wanted to win for rivalry's sake? For sure. But this is where you build that buffer. You don't lose the dumb games now, so you can afford to have maybe a small setback near the end of the season. If you lose the dumb games now, last season, they got away with it, but they lost a very dumb game to Seattle last year. And they made up for it this year by playing a bit better. But these are going to matter. And if Minnesota keeps at the same trajectory they're going to go, they're not going to win. They're not going to go undefeated the season, regular season. I'll say that right now. I'll bet money they won't do the full regular season. But if they're going to keep the same trajectory going where they are, you need to keep pace with them. Because if you don't and they get those few games in hand, then now you're chasing them, hoping that they drop games when they might not.
Well, then you're also in a more complicated situation playing for a wild card spot.
For sure, because now you're watching a bunch of other teams play, and they might be playing against teams that don't really even matter. It's way better to win your division, because then you really only have to focus on the teams in your division. When you're stuck in a wild card position, as everyone who is watching the Tigers games knows, you're up watching teams play Seattle at 3 a.m, hoping I really hope that. And you don't want to do that. Just watch your own division, go to sleep at a regular time, wake up in the morning feeling better, as opposed to waking up needing to mainline coffee because you were up until 7 a.m. watching some West Coast team play 7 overtimes.
But Fletcher, I need to mainline coffee every day.
Well, I mean that's a you and a Keurig thing. Let's not make that for everybody. That's some people do, and I get it. I mean, my girlfriend's the same exact way. She wakes up and she's like, "Feed me coffee," and I'm like, "All right, my bad. Here you go."
We have shared experiences in that world.
Yeah, let's not make it a Detroit sports fan thing where it's hey, we have to now watch the next 3 weekends, 2, 3 in the morning because the Lions dropped a few games, and now we have to make sure that the Rams don't do this or the 49ers don't do. And it's you could just seal it off yourself last year. Seal it off early, and now you get to just relax, and you get to watch some backup players get some yards, and you get to watch the depth of your team as opposed to hoping they pull out a 64-yard field goal at 3 a.m.
Well, and heal, because this season is longer than it used to be. The players are stronger than they used to be. And it is inevitable that you're going to have banged up players. And so getting some R&R time to just recover muscles, recover injuries is going to be crucial.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to build what Dan Campbell's trying to build and, a mold on how to shape this team to fit the city. You're going to need players to be healthy because you're going to be using them a lot. And if they are banged up near the end of the season, they'll be definitely not nearly as effective as they were at the beginning. And yeah, this is where you show your depth. This is where you show why you drafted these players here, why you signed these players here, and how they can help your team. Maybe Brock Wright, if the Lions seal things up, maybe Brock Wright becomes tight end number 1 for week 15. Probably not, but like maybe there's a chance, maybe there's a chance that a few other running backs get some touches before the twosome they have back there. Maybe Hendon Hooker gets a few throws at quarterback near the end of the season because Jared Goff has sealed it away. Maybe Amon-Ra gets to sit for a little bit, and maybe another receiver off the practice squad gets a chance to make some catches and show why he belongs on the roster. So yeah, all these things are very important, and it's kind of like a Jenga set. If you pull away a piece at the wrong time, it all collapses. So let's try to make sure we can pull away all the pieces and keep this Jenga tower as tall as possible.
2 quick predictions then. First, what's your prediction for Wednesday with the Tigers? And then what's your prediction for this weekend with the Lions?
I think the Tigers get it done. I think probably get it done 3-1. Need to get the bats working. I'm saying 3 to be on the low side. I'm hoping 3 will be enough. Comerica is a much harder park to hit the ball out of than most parks, so I'm using that in my back pocket. If you're putting up 5, 6, 7 runs in Comerica, you're probably putting up 15 somewhere else. So I'm going to go 3-1. Tigers ride the momentum, and the city breaks a Richter scale record around Comerica. And against the Cowboys, the Lions get it done as well. I don't think Dakota's a good quarterback. He's an NFL quarterback for sure. I don't think he's a good quarterback, and I think he's going to throw 2 interceptions, and I think the Lions are probably going to – their offense is going to chew up Dallas's defense well enough. It's probably something closer to like 28-17. I think Dallas will get some points. I just don't think it'll matter in the end.
Well, Fletcher Sharpe, I really appreciate you. If there is some important news that breaks out before next Tuesday, I'm sure we will catch up. And I hope that important news, I am pulling for, praying, swinging rubber chickens over my head. I want to have a special edition about the Tigers advancing in the playoffs. That's what I'm really in my heart truly hoping for. As much as it's like scary as a Tigers fan to believe, I want to believe.
2 more wins and then we can maybe have this episode.
Fletcher Sharpe, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. Our members on Patreon, patreon.com/dailydetroit. Thank you so much. I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.